In this video, we're going to learn how to price a call option in Excel VBA using a Monte Carlo simulation. So what we're going to do is to price a European call option with this strike price, a European call option on this underlying, so with an initial price of 28, this risk-free interest rate, volatility of 25%, a time horizon of 2 years, will simulate for every price dynamic 500 steps. So we will divide these 2 years by 500 intervals, and we will simulate 1,000 dynamics. In this column, we will have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 to represent every single stock price simulation. In this column, we want to represent the last value for every simulation, so the price of the stock at the end of the 2 years. And here we will write the payoff considering the last price. It's a European call option, so the payoff depends on the last ST. What we also want to do is to write in this sheet all the single prices for every time step. We'll have for every one of our 1,000 stock price dynamics, we'll have the value of this stock at each time. So we can start writing our code. So first of all, if you don't have this tab developer here, you should go to File, then Options. Then here in Customize ribbon, you click here and you should have the developer tab activated. Then we can start writing our macro. So we call it call price. We create it, and here it is, our macro that we will fill with our code. First of all, let's start learning some things you have to know when programming in VBA. You should always write this at the beginning of your code, option explicit. With option explicit, you're forced to declare a variable before naming it. So this prevents some problems that can arise, for example, when you misspell a variable and it creates a new variable on the go. This can bring to errors that may be difficult to debug, so we want this activated. Right now, we want to define all of our variables. So let's start with S0. We want it as a double because it admits decimals, and we do that for every other variable. Okay, so we've just declared these variables. Now what we want to do is to declare also our worksheets, so we can jump from one sheet to another, calling them by name. So team MC as worksheet, and we set MC equal to worksheets, and we write the name that is MC. And we do that also for the other sheet. So right now we want to valorize these variables we've just created. To do that, we write S0 equal to MC, that is the first workbook we created, the first worksheet. Then we go to range, and we select the cell from which we want to take the value of S0, that is B1. And we write dot value here, so Excel knows that it has to take this value here, 28, and put it in S0. And we do that for also the other variables. Now we want to create two other variables that are dt as double and the discount factor, that we will calculate right now. So dt is equal to t divided by n, and the disk factor is equal to the exponential of minus r multiplied by t. Okay, so what we want to do now is to prepare our worksheets to take the values for the simulations. So what we want to do is we want to clear the cells where we will paste the results of our calculations. So in the workbook MC, we select the cell D10, dot select, then starting from the cell we've just selected, so from selection, we want to offset this selection by let's say 10,000 rows, so we are sure to clear every value we don't want, and by 2 columns. This means that all the cells under simulations, ST and payoff will be cleared. So dot clear contents. So with the offset function, we start from D10, we go down by 10,000 rows, we go right by 2 columns, so we will do exactly what we said. What we want to do is to clear also the cell D5. So D5 dot clear contents dot clear contents. Okay. Then we activate the P worksheet. That means we select it, we go here, and we will clear also this part of our file. So we will do the same thing, p.range. This time we offset our selection by n plus 1 rows and m columns. So we know that everything is cleared. So right now we have to create other variables that we will need for our Monte Carlo simulations. These variables are the following. We've created these variables I, st, step, payoff discounted, and the v. Right now we will write this line of code. This is one of the best practices, as for example the option explicit we saw before. So right now with screen updating equal false, we want Excel not to show us every single step of the calculation. So we don't want Excel to update the worksheet every time it writes a new value, because that slows down the process a lot. So we just want the end of the process. We just want the end screen. Then we will also write randomize, as we will use the random function, so that will change the seed every time we make a new run. So right now we can start the cycle for I equals 1 to m. So in this case we will simulate m price dynamics, so 1,000 price dynamics. We initialize st as s0. Then what we want to do is to go in p, and in the range starting from a1, we offset it by 0 rows and I minus 1 columns, as we want the first row of the p worksheet to show us every single simulation, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we want only the first row, so we put a 0 here, and as I starts at 1, we will write I minus 1, so for the first iteration we won't have an offset of 1 column. So we put value equals I. And then we also want the second row the values of S0, so we offset it by 1 row, and we do the same thing but with S0. So right now we will write for step equal to 1 to n minus 1, because remember that we want to simulate n values for each stock price. So as the S0 is already the first value, we have to simulate other n minus 1 prices. So this time we write st equals st multiplied by the... Okay, so we must define what dv is. What we want in dv is to use a function in Excel. You must write application.worksheet function, and then you select the function that you want. In this case, we will sample values from a standard normal distribution, so we put a random number here, and we have our stochastic dv that we should multiply by the square root of dt. Okay. Then for every st, we want this st to be printed from A3 on. So we apply the same logic as here. So if we put an A1 here, then we want to offset by how many rows step. The offset we want is 2. So as a step starts from 1, we should write step plus 1. And we want to offset it by I minus 1 rows. This is correct. And we write here st. Next step. Then what we want to do for the other cycle is at the end of every stock price simulation, we want to take this final st and print it in the column we've said before. So we want it to be printed here. We activate our worksheet Monte Carlo. Then we say mc.range d10. First of all, we write our simulation number, so we offset it by, in this case, I minus 1 rows, as the first offset is 1 minus 1, so 0 rows, and that's okay. And then we want to offset it by a fixed 0 columns, and in value we put I. Then in the next cell, st, so E10, we still offset it by I minus 1 rows, 0 columns, and the value here is st. Okay, then we want to write our payoff discounted. We will use the max function. You know how to recall it, application.sheet function .max. Here we put st minus k. Did I use a capital letter? Yeah, for k. And 0. And we multiply it by the discount factor. As you know, now we print this in F10, still offset by I minus 1 rows, 0 columns, and here we put a equals payoff discounted. Here I should write like this, and we end the cycle. Then what we want to do is to finally write the call price. So we create the variable call price as double. We also create a range, you'll see why. Range, we want call price to be equal to application dot worksheet function dot the mean, the average of all the discounted payoffs that we put in this range. So we will write MC dot range, we select the F10 cell, dot select, then we write set RNG equals to MC dot range, starting from the selection, we offset the selection by M minus 1 rows to select all of them, and by 0 columns. Right now we're ready to calculate the call price and to write it in D5. That will be our result. So right now I will teach you how to use the VBA debugger to understand potential errors. Here the value is the call price. I believe that's fair, and right now you go here. Here you can see the debug tool. You can use F8 to step into, so to run the first line. The debugger will run line by line your code, and it will tell you if there are any errors. So we start. It gives MC this value, that is, it assigns it the worksheet MC. The same thing for P, it initializes all the variables. Okay, the T, disk factor. It selects the range in D10, you see. It also clears the contents that we said before. It clears everything, it goes in P, it does the same thing. So screen updating, false, randomize, and here our loop starts. We'll see how that goes. So here it should print our value I at the first row. Let's see if it does it. Okay, the 1 is printed. Here it should print S0. Okay, 28 is the value of S0. And then it starts writing all the other prices. So for the first step, the value of the stock price is 28.46. Then we can go on and on. We obviously don't want to press F8 for every single step in this cycle. So what we're going to do is to select here a breakpoint, and we'll say to the debugger, step out of the cycle, finish all the calculations. Okay, so it calculated all the price dynamics, stopping at this point where I wanted. So right now we go on, we activate the MC, we put here the I value, that in this case is 1. Then in ST we put the last value of ST, that is here 13.37. Let's see if that's true. 13.37, perfect, that's it. Okay, then the discounted payoff. Okay, in this case it's 0 because 13.37 is under the strike price K. Then we repeat the same cycle also for the other simulations. As before, we select a breakpoint, we say step out. Right now it's calculating everything, so it takes a bit of time. It calculated everything, and here we should go to 1000. Okay, perfect. Calculated also here, it wrote all the prices for our simulations. So as we wanted, here we have the number of the simulation, and at the second row we have the S0. Then what we will do is to print the call price. So F8, F8, F8 and F8, 2.50. What we want to do now is to insert a button. We call it call price, call pricing, and every time we press it, a new calculation will be made. So all the simulations will be repeated, and we will press it now to see if also the clear contents that we did works. Okay, let's exit from the debugger and let's write everything again. Okay, so everything worked fine, it calculated a new price, and this is how you can start writing a simple program in Excel VBA.